Welcome, Karen, to my Stronger Than You Think podcast. I'm so excited to have you today. I would like to ask you just to introduce yourself in just a second. I'm going to tell my listeners and my watchers, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe and favorite it if you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But this is my friend Karen Taylor. We met in a collaboration network group, gosh, a couple of months ago. I guess it hasn't really been that long, has it?
Yeah, a
And
couple over the summer. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was letting people know again that I have a podcast and just, hey, if you're interested in coming on, then come on. I think we were talking about people being kind of freaked out to do things. I don't think you were, but some were. And I was like, well, come on my podcast, practice it that way. And so Karen signed up right away. This is so exciting. So Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell my listeners, our watchers, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to be doing this with you and just excited to when I first came into that collaboration group, I feel like I was trying to do all the things with everybody and we just didn't get a chance to connect as, intimately one-on-one. And we have recently, and it's just been like a real joy to get to know you better. And I think I told you I just love your vibe. So I was excited to come on and do this with you today. So
Oh, thank you. I feel
uh,
the same way. It's I like the little like breakaways that we get for just a minute to get to
yeah,
know each other. It's
yeah,
really
we
beautiful.
have a lot of similarities, and
Yeah,
so excited
really.
to explore those even further. But yes, Karen Taylor, I am a transformation coach, and I am helping women really reinvent themselves from the inside out. I was a corporate girl most of my life, kind of just checked the boxes in life. I went to college and studied the major that people thought I should. I did the family thing in the way I think people thought I should, and, started a corporate career, which was a great career for 23 years. And then in 2019, I had a very tragic event happen in my life. My sister passed away in a fire at her home, and that really flipped everything upside down for me. And, they say when you have an event like that, life is never the same again. And I can attest that's exactly how it was. And so I was very lost. Grief had completely cracked me open. I had no idea how to heal from a loss of this magnitude. And I told the universe, I was just really kind of getting, into spirituality at that point, but I knew enough to say to the universe, if you help me understand why this happened and what I'm supposed to learn from it, I will go forth and help as many people as possible. And so the universe kept its end of the deal as it does. And it took me on this very long journey, like a 2-year long journey. And it was really about healing and grieving, but it ultimately became about getting to know myself really for the first time in my life.
Mhm.
So I do say that the grieving journey is more about figuring out who you are when everything in your life has changed. And that was definitely my experience. And yeah, I really transformed completely. And I got to a point in that journey where I understood that it was through the loss of my sister that I actually found myself and found my purpose in this life, which is a gift. And so it took me a little bit longer to hold my end up of that deal I made with the universe. I had to fight a lot of imposter syndrome and, really going from a corporate identity to one of out there helping and healing was a big jump for me. So it took me a long time to really kind of untie a lot of the knots that I had gotten myself into around that. But I'm there now, and I'm super excited to really be kind of reintroducing my brand and feeling very, certain about what I'm supposed to be doing in this world, and just really helping, spread a message that I think is really important about loving out loud and living fully and loving loudly and leaving no room for regret.
Oh, I love it. That's beautiful. I've actually, thank you for sharing all of that. I have heard you talk about your sister passing away, but I did not know that it was in a fire in her home.
Mm.
And not that when people die, it's hard. But then there's weird things when people die, and that's so shocking to the system. My sister's husband actually passed away from a heart attack in their home when he was 39. He was
Mm.
just walking down the hall. They were having a conversation back and forth, back and forth. She said something, he didn't respond. She's like, that's weird, and went in the room, and he was dead. So,
Wow.
I mean, that takes 2 seconds to tell, but like, same with your story. I'm sure, yeah, my sister passed away tragically in a fire in her home. Like, gosh, can we just hold space for that for a minute and be like, man,
Yeah, I kind of I've talked about it so much, and I kind of forget how shocking it can be to the person on the other end, kind of
yeah.
hearing that. And you're right, because I mean, honestly, my brother-in-law and my niece walked away that night with nothing but the clothes on their back. I mean, their
Oh,
house was a
because of
complete
fire.
loss. Yeah, and without a wife and a mom, and you think about, like, oftentimes I think about what was that night really like for them? When I'm having a day, when I'm feeling kind of, when I'm dragging myself down, sometimes I really do. I go back and I think about what was that night like? Um, and what kind of resilience had to come to really even, wake up that next day and try to deal with the aftermath, of what transpired. I mean, it was very difficult for me. It was difficult for my parents, but we still had our home, and we had our, we had everything that we had before except her. They had nothing. And so it does put things into perspective.
Yeah, it really does. Wow. And you just got home from a visit down here in Florida to visit them, right? And it was good.
My nephew, yeah, he and his wife were expecting a baby. And so we went to the baby shower, and we actually they did a 4D sonogram. So we got to go and experience that. And
Oh, neat.
yeah, the technology is wild
Oh
now,
my
what they can
gosh.
do. It's just like the coolest. It's almost kind of like you're watching this, you're like, should I even be seeing this? Like,
I feel like this is a little too intimate. I know when
I
I
know.
was I worked
Like,
in
I
an
don't know.
OBGYN office when I was like 18 and 19. And I remember sometimes you get really close to the patients, and sometimes they'd invite me in for when they got the ultrasound, and you're looking at it and you're like, I really have no idea what I'm looking at. And now
Yeah,
you're like, this is like X-ray vision. I'm not supposed to be seeing this. Like the difference
right.
in just, I mean, I guess it's been 30 years, but still the difference in technology is insane, isn't it?
It's amazing what they can do.
That's
But
crazy.
yeah, I really, it's my stage of grief now is really, in a lot of it's that secondary loss, because I'm really feeling for my nephew and my niece when they have these big life events.
Oh, yeah.
He got married, and she wasn't there, and the baby shower, and she's not there, and so my heart just really breaks all over again for them.
Yeah.
um
Do you feel like a responsibility? And this is a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you feel some sort of responsibility to like not take her place, but kind of take her place? Yeah.
to show up,
Yeah.
to absolutely show up. And I see how close I am with my kids and all the things we do, the fun things we do together. And sometimes I'll be like posting about that, and then I think, I hope it doesn't hurt their heart, when they
Mm.
see things like this. So I always just try to show up for them.
Yeah.
And like, no matter what, like, I'm going to be there. And like, like you said, not to replace, but just,
Right.
I'm the closest thing to my sister,
Hmm.
that they have. Our voices sound alike.
Do
Um,
they?
a lot of people said we look alike. I never really saw it, but I mean, people were like, oh my gosh, you guys look so similar.
Yeah.
So, and my nephew's wife, like, she never got to meet my sister, and she has a lot of grief because she never got to meet this person that everybody else knew. And so it's kind of through me that she feels closer to her. So yeah, it is a responsibility. And, I'm honored that I get to, be somebody in their life that, can show up for them.
Yeah. That makes sense. So it's interesting. I feel like I've heard recently in a few of the books I've been listening to that when people have been in a place that's dark and difficult, that they've said universe or prayed to God or whatever your communication is. If you, then I will absolutely move forward and help other people. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And so do you help people then through grief? I know you said you help women reinvent themselves, but is it like focused on grief?
You know, so here's what's interesting. When I went through this whole spiritual journey and transformation, I knew really how I wanted to help women and kind of, what I wanted to help them with. And it was really about, because this is what my sister could never get to, is that like feeling of loving yourself and really finding that happiness from within.
Okay.
And so I was like, I said that all the time to her. Like, just be happy. Happiness comes from within. You can be whatever you want to be. And I was saying those words, but like I realized I didn't really understand what it meant. Like if she would have said, okay, how do I do that?
You'd have been
I'd be
like,
like,
I don't know, just do it.
to
I
do it. I
don't,
don't know. So
you're
that
not
was
supposed to
kind
ask
of
me
the
that. You're just supposed to say okay and do
you're
it
supposed
by
you're
yourself.
supposed to stay surface level like we all
Yeah.
do. Like, why are you
Right.
going
Yeah.
deep?
You have, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. Okay.
Right.
Which
Right.
is never the truth, right?
Yeah. So I went deep. I'm like,
Interesting.
I want to understand these things that we say
Okay.
kind of just off the cuff every day, but I want to really understand what it means. And I want to understand how I can explain to somebody if they did ask that question, how do you practically do that? And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I named my company Atmology because it means the study of one's true self, because I really do feel like we're all here to know ourselves on the
You named
deepest
it what?
levels. Atmology,
You spell that?
it's Atmalogy.
Cool.
And I was at a cafe in Nashville, and it was called Atmology, and it was the cutest cafe. And I was checking out, and I looked over and they had t-shirts, and I never ever do this, but I bought a t-shirt, and I'm like, would wear it, throughout the years. And I was folding laundry one day, and I was folding this t-shirt, and I looked down, and I had been thinking about like what I really want this. I really want my coaching business name to mean something.
Mhm.
And so I looked down, and it was right there. And I'm like, of course, like this is exactly what I went through. This is exactly the transformation that I went through. And this is what I really want to help other women
Mhm.
achieve too. And so I did kind of go back and think I would be more kind of grief focused. I did get my grief educator certification. But I've kind of come full circle on it. And I feel like, no, I really do I want to help women understand they're enough, remember who they've always been before the world told them who they had to be, which is why I resonate so deeply with the book that you just published today. So
Yay.
cool, about labels, because that is like, that is what I was living under, what so many of us are living under. And so I want to help women remember who you've always been, and guess what? Who you can become, because we are the creator of our reality. And so I want, the grief work is going to absolutely help me, help inform my coaching, because at the heart of it, like we're all like just kind of trying to get through one loss after another. So it
Right.
was really helpful to understand grief at a much deeper level. But my one-on-one coaching program is called the Alchemy of Enough, because that's really what this all was for me. And remembering that I've always been enough, and we all have always been enough, and we all will always be enough.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I mean, the name of my podcast is Stronger Than You Think. And really the whole premise of it is that in what I do, I talk to people all the time who on the outside appear to be just fine, right? They appear to have the perfect life or the whatever. I mean, I work on CEOs, for crying out loud, who seem to have everything just the way it should be. And then, they tell me what's going on. They confide in me and I help them. And it's so fascinating. I'm like, everybody thinks you're fine. They're like, yeah, well, I have to. And we get this opportunity to be so much stronger than we realize we ever could have been if we give ourselves a chance to look back and see how far we've come. I think we get so caught up in all the to-dos and the tasks and the things that we have to do that we don't often take a minute to realize, oh my gosh, look at how far I've come. Look at what I did, you know, look at what I'm doing versus a year ago versus 2 years ago. I mean, I was telling you this is my 72nd podcast episode, and this and my Stronger Than You Think. And I remember the first one I did, I was like sweating and I was so nervous. And I was like, I had on heels for crying out loud because I was like, I think I have to look like this. I was like, nobody even sees you like from the chest down.
All
And
right.
it's just it's funny how things change, but it's because we have to dig deep and find out who we are actually. I really truly believe that part of this earth experience. So I very much believe in God, and I believe that He has made us perfectly. And I really think that you have kids. So
Yeah.
you know that if you say, for example, you get 20 bucks, whoever does this chore gets 20 bucks. Like I know which kid's going to do it. I know which kids aren't going to care. And I know which thing to say, not because I can read their minds, but because I just know them so well. And I feel like
Right.
God knows us and He knows who we're going to be and how we're going to act so well. But I think it's our gift on this earth to figure out and to learn and see for ourselves how strong we truly are, our character, that it's so much bigger than we ever could have imagined. And I love that that's what you're doing, not only for yourself, but for others. That's so beautiful. How long have you been doing this coaching business?
Um, well, since, well, 2019 is when I started my journey.
Right.
And then it's like 2 years. And then I started doing it. But then that's when, and I had success, right? I was getting clients and, um, I was moving forward. And then as our friend Mayor says, the judgment dragons came up. And that's when I had to really like go back and do the work around my identity as an entrepreneur versus a corporate leader, because I had been a corporate leader my whole life.
Yeah,
And
that's what you
that
said. Like
identity
20,
was
how long? 23 years?
23 years. Yeah, that
Wow.
identity was strong. And I never questioned that identity. Like work to me was
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? That's an
never once.
identity that was like, oh, okay, I fit in this box, done. That's
I
how it
totally
is.
fit in this. Like I knew I mean, I started working, when I was 16 at a bank, I mean, I was the one that was like saving money and like having a plan. Like I had a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so I knew
Would
I'd
you
be
pause for
successful.
just a minute there? Because I I love that you said that because in my mind, like hard work is like the way to be. I am set. That is my work ethic. I can outwork
Mm,
anybody. I'm like the Energizer Bunny when it comes to work. So I love that you said that because as an entrepreneur, like you can literally never stop working as an entrepreneur.
yeah,
There is always work. And so
abundance.
you can finish telling your story, but I'm curious then if that has shifted at all for you and what you're doing is like work ethic, like how has that changed? So keep telling your
Mm,
story and then maybe tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I was good at it, right? So I knew that, I could be successful. And I just kind of, went up the ranks. I didn't play the game. Like I am not a game player. So I was kind of always like, I'm going to work and I'm going to do a really good job and I'm going to let that stand on its own. Like I'm not about playing the game. And I just never did. And
Yeah.
luckily, like my work was recognized, right? So I did move up through the ranks in my corporate career. But I also got really out of balance in life. And so while other parts of my
Yeah.
life were not going well, aka relationship, I just threw myself more into work because that was
Because you're
where I could
good.
be useful. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, you're
so,
a very useful engine. Yeah, that's
yeah, yeah. So I now recognize that. And honestly, it is one of my bigger regrets because I did miss time with my kids and certain things because of the work. That is one thing I would go back and change if I could. So now yes, it has changed because I won't let myself get back to that place of imbalance. So balance
okay.
is one of my core values. Um, but I will, I'll work, I mean, there's nights when I'm up till midnight working. But when, when it comes to my kids and we have stuff planned or they're just come into the room, the laptop shuts, and I just,
Mhm.
I give them my attention and my presence because
Yeah.
um, I just never want them to feel like, again, like, oh, your work is just completely consuming you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's a balance, right? Because it's like you want to teach them if it's something you love and you're passionate about, it doesn't even really feel like work, and that's
Yeah.
cool. But everything's in balance. So yeah,
I have an opinion about balance, and I think it's fake news.
tell
I
me.
think
I would love to.
I think that it seems as though it is real, but I just don't think it is. Like when you think of a ballerina and she's on point, and like a really good ballerina who's on point and she's balanced, right? I'm doing air quotes here for those who are listening,
Mhm.
that she's not really balanced. There's a counterbalance. There's all of these little tiny muscles. Like when you try and stand on one foot, for example, I say try because I'm not very good with balance, which is probably why I think it's fake news. But when you stand on one foot, there's all these little teeny tiny muscles inside of our body that are firing. We have they're called intrinsic. They're teeny, teeny, itty bitty little tiny muscles. So there's balance to me seems like laying down and like nothing is working. And perhaps that's where I'm incorrect. Perhaps balance does mean that there's a whole bunch of different things working at the same time.
Mm.
And maybe it's just what things are more important. I heard when I was a young mom that you can really only do like a couple things at a time well. Like you can be a good mom, you can be a good wife, you can be a good housekeeper, but you can't be all three. You've got to sort of pick and choose. And maybe that's where my idea of balance kind of got off, that you can't, and maybe that's what I believe actually, is that balance is doing everything all of the time. And that's
Mhm.
what's fake news, is you get
Oh
to choose
yeah.
one or two things. And maybe
And I
that's
wonder,
what you
like,
mean
is
with
it
it.
more harmony? Like I almost like
Oh, I like
I've
harmony.
also, yeah, like I've also like
Yeah.
introduced that concept, and maybe it's because that feels more flowing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it
I
doesn't
love
have to be
that.
an equal, like I think balance too, right, is equal
Uh,
proportion. So maybe it's more like harmonious, like,
yeah. Yeah, because it's
yeah.
never equal. Even when you try, like, I'm curious if this happened to you. Even when you try and buy like Christmas presents for your kids, I'm gonna get all the same amount. You never do. Like sometimes I would have one for one kid and like eight for the other. And I was like, what the heck is happening? I try to get everybody equal. And it's like, oh my gosh, it was so difficult. But I like harmony, because harmony, even sometimes there's dissonance in harmony, there can be tragedy in there, and that's often the part that makes things so beautiful.
Mm, that's so true.
I really like harmony. I almost get irritated when people say, "Oh yeah, work-life balance." I'm like, it's just not even real. It's just,
Mm, almost like an unattainable, yeah.
yeah, and then you kind of
Like, are
set
we
yourself
setting
up for
ourselves up like,
failure.
yeah, I was gonna say we do that, right? Like we set
Jinx,
ourselves up
yeah.
for failure. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I have a new whiteboard. Um,
Yeah, I see you
because
keep glancing over there. I'm like, is that a
I
kid coming
know,
in
because
or what's going on?
I wrote, well, no, I was on a walk today and I wrote down the joyous journey. And when you were talking before, like that really is what this feels like. It's the journey, right? It's all
Yeah.
the learnings and all the growth and all
It's
the
the climb,
evolution.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that is really, I think I'm really finally starting to understand that's what this is all about is,
Mm.
are you in love with the journey no matter what, either personally or with my coaching business? And I think I'm finally at that point where I really am. I really am. And that is such a good place to be.
Yeah, it really is.
And I
So,
think it's yeah, I mean, people are saying like they're like you're different, like there's a shift, like we can see it. And I think that's what it is. I think it's people kind of under like seeing the outward reflection of what I'm feeling inside, which is really loving the journey.
that's beautiful. So, going back to something you said earlier, when you tell this to people, then their question is how? How do I get to love the journey, because I'm in the the muck and the hard and the gross. And maybe that's where your coaching program comes in. But is there like a sum up or a where to start that you tell people?
Yeah. So that's what so I'm a process nerd. I process map everything. It's annoying. Like when like I go to a drive-through and I'm like my, mind spinning. My kids are like, "You're rearranging this whole thing, aren't you, right now?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh my gosh,
Like
you
it
and I
just
would be
doesn't
like yin and
shut up.
yang. I'm like the spontaneous. I think I'm so spontaneous. Like if I have plans, it's difficult for me. So that's funny. I think we're entirely opposite, which is maybe why our energies are like, this is so good. Like you're,
I know.
maybe that's the
It's
balance, right?
right. The harmony. It's the
The
harmony.
harmony right there.
Yeah. So I did go back and look at all the things that I had done on this 2-year journey. And some of the things were, just nice to have, nice to know, but there were some that were game changers. And so
Mm,
I really kind of mapped out those game changers. I'm like, this is program, like this is the process, like this is what I went through.
yeah.
So I really talk about you have to go backwards to go forwards. So
Mm,
I start there and I got certified in hypnosis because it was the most incredible modality that I've ever experienced where you can just go back in this very relaxed state and just revisit things that happened from the past and see them from an adult set of eyes and understand that the meaning that we attach to things when we were younger is not the same meaning that we would choose today. And so it's a really beautiful process of kind of unlearning and
yeah.
untying a lot of these knots that we get ourselves stuck in, because all of these experiences shaped our belief system, and our belief system's now running the show as an adult. And so if you can go back and look at that and say, oh, that actually didn't mean this or that, right? This didn't mean that I'm
Yeah.
not enough. This didn't mean that I'm not worthy. This didn't mean that
Mm,
I'm not lovable. And we can assign a new meaning to it. Like that's where I start, because you kind of have to have a clean slate to really build upon. um, so from there, then I actually jumped to the future first,
mm.
because I really want to get anchored in, where do you want to go? Now that we've
Oh,
gone,
cool.
yeah, we've gone backwards and we've kind of liberated you from those things.
Yeah.
What do you want? Like now we get to dream, and that's the fun part, and like really elicit our values and what really matters to us. And then we end in the present, because the present is the gift. And when we can learn how to stay present, and we don't have to go backwards anymore, and we've already addressed the future, like all we have to do is stay in the present. And the present's where the miracles happen. And so it's the present is just really about filling people's toolbox with, um, I call them mind hacks, just all these little things that we get to use to uh, trick our brain into, what we need it to
Yeah.
do. So yeah, that's kind of it's a, past, future, and present kind of structure.
I like that. That's really neat. I haven't, maybe you talked about that the other day on your master class. I came in late, so I missed that part if you talked about it. If you didn't, like, that is a really, really neat way to look at it. I love that. My husband and I always talk about how a lot of times when people are talking about faith, they think it has to do with the future, which it could, but my husband and I very much believe it's looking back to see all the things, how they have worked out, and then believing since they have that also they will. And so we're
Mm,
able to persevere in the now. So that's beautiful. We actually have a very similar uh, theory on all of that. It's really fun to hear that, and I'm glad that that has worked for you. That's so cool. So what's happening now? What's your excitement? I know you're talking a lot about miracles right now. Talk to me about that.
yeah. So my brand, what I got really clear on is kind of the overarching brand is Love Out Loud.
Good.
And that again came very naturally, and I had to circle back to it. But after my sister passed away, it was her 1 year anniversary. I wanted to do something to honor her. And I woke up one morning, and I've been doing a lot of meditating, right? It was about 1 year into the spiritual awakening that I was going through. And I woke up and I had this download. and I just
Mhm.
started writing. And I wrote out a whole script for a video that I had recorded called Project Love Letter, and it was the love letter that I never got to write her.
Mm.
And that's hard
Yeah.
to, have that realization when it's too late. And so part of what I want to do with Love Out Loud is help people write that letter, um,
Mhm.
love out loud, so that they don't have to drown in that shame and regret, because 99% of the work that we do with grief is about resolving shame and guilt.
Okay.
And some of it is, we can't, mitigate all of it, but there's a lot that we actually do have control over.
Mhm.
And so I want to help people say as much as they can
Mm.
while that person is still here, so that they don't find themselves in that shame spiral, because it's really hard to get out of. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it really is. So that's part of it with Love Out Loud, is the Project Love Letter, the Alchemy of Enough. And then the miracle formula just kind of came more recently. So I was looking back and thinking, like, oh my gosh, like all these really amazing things have been happening in my life. And then I remembered this list that I had written, and I have a zillion notebooks. Like, I am addicted to notebooks. So I write all these things, but then I kind of forget about them. But I remembered I had written this list. It was like right after I had joined Stacy's programs. And I wrote this list, and there was 6 things on there. And I was like, and I was driving home from Ohio, this retreat that we went to in Ohio. And I'm like, was that thing on that list that actually has come true? So I couldn't wait to get home and actually pull out
Yeah.
this list. And when I pulled out this list, every single thing had come true. Every single thing. And like, I've
Wow.
heard like podcasts where people say they've done a vision board and then they forgot about it. And then somebody was like looking at it and they're like, oh, you put a picture of the house you live in now on your vision board. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's my house. Like, I had never experienced anything like that until then, where I just forgot about it. Like, I literally forgot about this list. And so then again, my process brain was like, what were you doing? Like, what were you doing around that? And I realized there was a process that I've been going through. So then I got that nudge to create this miracle formula masterclass. And I did my first one that you got to be a part of for, kind of on the later end of it. But it was so fun. And that's going to be part of this, is just teaching people. Again, I think this is all, we're all here to just help and teach people what we figured out and gone through. And like, again, it's the world I want to live in. Like, if we all did that around our own unique experiences,
Yeah.
like what an amazing world to live in. Like, we would
Right.
all just get to learn and grow together and share. And yeah, so that's kind of the latest addition to it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it so much. Um, gosh, you just you're just making it happen, which is so cool. I think a lot of times people will get stuck in not making things happen, and you're just doing it anyways. I love out loud. It's interesting. I've heard that I think there is a festival, if I remember correctly, called Love Out Loud.
Mm.
Um, and it's I think it's put on by Imagine Dragons. Um,
Ah,
and it's an inclusive, loving thing. And if I'm remembering correctly, I'm almost positive. And I love the idea of loving out loud, and because really, isn't that what it's all about? Isn't our job just really to love everybody else and not judge the heck out of them or be mad that they're somewhere we aren't, or whatever? Like, aren't we just here to love one another in this experience that we're all going through? I've heard that if we treat everybody like they're having a really bad day, like 9 times out of 10, we're right.
right.
We just
Yeah,
never know what people are going through. And so I love that you're spreading
absolutely.
love. It's
And I
beautiful.
think it starts, like, I mean, honestly, that love letter had to be written to myself first,
Yeah.
because it's really hard to give other people unconditional love when you're not giving it to yourself. So I think the majority of people could benefit from writing that love letter to themselves once they have done some of that work and they've released some of those, limiting beliefs, then you actually do get to love yourself
Yeah.
unconditionally. And, there's so many families that are, in disarray and people aren't speaking and, this isn't about, you know, discounting your healthy boundaries. Like I totally believe in healthy boundaries. Um, but boundaries should be to keep people in your life, right? Like the boundaries should be so that you actually get to keep the person in your life, not like keep everybody out.
Right.
And so, there's a piece of that I need to be, messaging to that it's not like just love everybody. And, even if they've hurt you, even if like it's not healthy, like,
Right.
you know, forget all that. No, that's not what this is about. But also helping people see you can still write that love letter to somebody and release all expectations of what that
Mhm.
response is going to be, right? Because it's for you. Like it's so your heart can share what your heart wants to say. And regardless if that other person ever responds or, shares the sentiment back, like that's not even the point of it, really. It's that your heart got to release what it wanted to say.
Yeah.
And that's just another thing, that we're just not used to, right? We're used to doing things so we can get an anticipated response back. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
layers to this.
Yeah.
But I do believe, like you said, that that's what we're all here to do is just to love loudly and just don't leave any room for regret because we know, I mean, it anybody who's experienced it, but I mean, of course, you just turn on the news and you can understand like life is so fragile and nothing puts it into perspective like when you just suddenly lose somebody that was
Yeah.
literally just right here, right? And it can be everything can change that quickly. Like I know that
It's
from
confusing too,
experience. So many people
isn't
know
it?
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's physical, the experience that you have when you have someone right now and then right now you don't. It
Shocking. Like you
it
go into
doesn't
shock.
even make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's just and actually your
You're
brain
like,
is
no, you're
fascinated.
wrong. Like, wait, no, I'm not wrong. Something happened, but yeah, it's very bizarre.
Your brain literally implodes
Mhm. Yeah.
because it's yeah, it has all these patterns that it's been tracking for years about your relationships. And then your brain doesn't understand when you lose somebody that you still hold love for,
Yeah.
but they're not physically present. And so
Right.
your brain keeps helping you predict when you're going to see them again. And
Yeah.
that's where all
Right.
that yearning comes from, right? That's why like you can pick up your phone a year after you've lost somebody and go to text them.
Yeah.
And you're like, logically, you're like, I
Yeah.
know they're not here, right? But it's your brain trying to rewire its patterning. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
It really is. And it's beautiful that we can. And I love that you have never said, and I'm going to say, obviously, you wouldn't say this because you've been through it, but I love that you said you like it takes a while to get over it or whatever. I think sometimes we say things trying to fix and help, and it doesn't. You don't get over it. It's a different normal now, is what it is. It's not,
Yeah,
that's it. It's now an entirely different path than it was before because it has to be.
yeah, yeah. It's you're learning like the grieving. It's really interesting. Uh, Grief in and of itself, you're having a normal reaction to not having somebody or something that you were attached to. And so that's the emotional waves that come up, right?
Yeah.
The grieving journey is actually much more about you and you discovering who you are when everything around you has changed.
Mhm.
And that's a really beautiful journey if we allow ourselves to go on it. But you don't get over grief. You kind of get on top of grief.
Yeah.
Um, and it's
Like, here we
really
go. Here we go, grief, you and I,
yeah,
right?
it's like
Throw your
best
arm
like I
around it.
say that, I'm like, I've made best friends with my grief because it has been my greatest teacher. And it's a skill set. And
Yeah.
I think it's one that we should all really lean into because no one's escaping this, not just from death, right? I mean, we have losses all the time. And a lot of times we're not even acknowledging that it was a loss that would have grief. So therefore there's all this unprocessed grief
Oh,
that people are
interesting.
walking around with. Yeah, well, I think it'd be fascinating. I'm sure there are studies that have done this, but to correlate issues that people are having, like either, from a physical standpoint, emotionally, mentally, and how many of those could be tied back to unprocessed grief. I think it is the cause of so many more diseases and, challenges in our life than we're probably attributing it to.
Oh,
I think there's
absolutely. So the emotion grief, in case you're wondering and you didn't know, it actually lives in the lungs. It hangs out in your lungs. And so people who have unprocessed grief will often have a lot of lung
lung issues.
issues. They have a hard time breathing. It is very, very fascinating. I would agree 100% that grief will do that. I'll work on people, and when they release that grief, you hear a big breath, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I can breathe, and my chest is lighter, and I'm no longer coughing or whatever." It is so incredibly physical. It's
It
amazing.
is.
Yeah.
So, and we just were never taught. I mean, it's not, like I don't believe in like blaming the generation
Right.
before because I believe that they were just doing the best that they could, right? We pass these things on, but
Mhm.
just were never taught. Like we weren't taught how to. I mean, in fact, I don't. For
Yeah, because
me,
they
it was like
weren't, right? Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
taught to like push it down and like
Yeah.
keep going and like just sweep it under the rug. Everything's fine. You're fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah.
Everything's fine. So you're like, okay, got it.
Okay, I'm fine.
But it's
Everything's fine.
not. Just act like it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Maya Angelou says one of my favorite things. We do the best we
I
can
love
with
her.
what we know, and then when we know better, we do better. And I figure that there are things I'm not teaching my kids. I hope that each generation gets better. My parents were better than their parents, and I hope that my kids are better than I am, because
Yeah,
we learn more and understand more and have different access to information or different experiences and opportunities for growth. And so, yeah, I agree. I don't hold ill will toward the generation before me because they were just doing the best they could and changing the things they didn't like, right? And
really.
that's all of our opportunities. Like with a recipe, you make it the way you learned it, and then you're like, you know what? My daughter hates corn, not putting corn in the recipe, and that's it. It's nobody's
Yeah,
fault. Just change it up.
just adapting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
had to
So, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I've actually gone back and apologized to my kids for a lot of things that, I just didn't know. And now that I do, um, I can do it differently. But I think they were like they've never seen that behavior, right? Like they're like, wait,
Yeah.
an adult is like apologizing and like saying that they were even wrong about some things. So I think that was like the best gift I probably gave my kids that came from all of this is just acknowledgement of my humanness and willingness to say like I'm not perfect and I know that I did things, like the working,
Yeah.
getting out of balance and acknowledging that. I think it gave them permission to also feel like, oh, I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Which is huge because it shows that there's love either way. I truly believe that the reason people are people pleasers is because they learned that in order to be loved is to agree with the other
Yes.
person, to do what the other person wants. Therefore, you're a people pleaser because you want to be loved. We all want to be loved,
Yep.
and so yeah, that's what I've decided. So we are going to wrap up the podcast because it always goes way too fast. But before we end, I always love to ask my guests, because the name of my podcast is Stronger Than You Think. And I know we've talked a lot about ways that you've been strong and the ways that you've come out of it. But what would you say? Either you can say again something that you said or something that you haven't said where you realized or discovered in getting through something, holy cow, I was so much stronger than I thought.
Yeah, I have a long list of those things, but I think most recently it's um with relationships that, I used to label myself for things that have happened in my relationships. And now I realize that this is all part of my joyous journey and that none of it was because something was wrong with me. Like it was all me really figuring out and kind of understanding like those wounds that I still had to heal, like being
Yeah.
being empathic and thinking I had to fix people and really beating myself up, when those relationships didn't work out, and just being stronger in understanding and knowing
Yeah.
my job isn't to fix people. My job is to hold space and
Mhm.
reflect back to people. But I've really gotten strong in my boundaries, and that's helped me like be stronger than I thought I could be, because I now can hold the boundary and say, I love you, but that's not mine to carry. That is not mine to carry, but I love you.
Amazing. That's amazing.
And I'm going to keep working on myself. Like, it's a continuous journey. Like, it's just,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
it's just never done. But like I said, I'm just so at peace with where I'm at right now. And um, I know that from that place, things are just going to even get better. So,
That's amazing. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I love it. I love it so much. Thank you
no
for
question. So good.
coming. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for being so vulnerable and just sharing so much. I love doing this. I love getting to talk to people, and one of my gifts is really feeling people's hearts. And
Mm,
I am just always honored when I get to know somebody a little bit better. I feel like I've now got a sneak peek into Karen, and so when we see each other in other Zoom rooms, I'll feel something different for you just because of our experience together. So I'm
yeah,
very grateful for
I
that.
love, I love that. And like I said, I think we're just kind of starting to explore that
Yeah.
more deeply with each other, which is really exciting. Because again, you're just such a bright light in this
Oh,
world. And
thank
so
you.
thank you for sharing this space with me and
Mhm.
allowing us to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm going to end this podcast as I end. If you've ever seen a walkie-talkie or any of my podcasts, you know exactly how it ends. And so I like to remind everybody that I'm walking with you, and Karen and I are walking with you in your grief, in your happiness, in your success, in your sorrows, and you're stronger than you think. I want you to have the very best day. Love you. Bye.